Hello, people of YouTube. So today we got a video that we're gonna go ahead and react to from exercise scientist, the very famous Mr. Jeff Nippard. Um, so he's gonna go ahead and break down some of the biggest influencers on YouTube. We're gonna go into it with an open mind. I know Jeff Nippard is pretty controversial, being a science fitness guy, but we're gonna go into it with with an open mind, and just see where we agree and disagree. And honestly, whether his advice actually makes sense for someone training in the real world. If you guys haven't noticed, I do have the homie Mr. Kyle with me. Go ahead and say hi,
Up,
Kyle.
everyone? How you doing?
Yeah. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and get into it. Let's see what we got.
In this video, I'm breaking down training advice from some of the biggest names in fitness with my friend, Dr. Mike Israetel. Mike has a PhD in sports science, is a competitive bodybuilder, and one of YouTube's top fitness educators.
Still agree with that?
Yeah, even more than when I said it.
I have a degree in biochemistry, multiple peer-reviewed papers, and 6 natural bodybuilding competitions under my belt at the national and pro level.
Hey, that's cool. Like, I actually like novel exercises. There's no science on that.
We'll each get about 30 seconds to give our take. No fluff, just straight critique. Now, this isn't about calling anyone out. A lot of these lifters are better bodybuilders than us. They're clearly doing the big things right. Our goal is to break down their advice through a scientific lens and then share the things we'd tweak. Let's get into it.
I want to start with, in my opinion, the greatest bodybuilder of all time, Mr. Ronnie Coleman. So this is
a fact.
pretty famous clip.
Yep.
You went on Fuad's podcast and made the claim that you think Ronnie would have had better quads and a lower risk of injury had he trained in a more science-based, optimal way. So let's listen.
Fuad, the short answer is they would all have bigger quads with less injuries if they trained more like we're saying. Yes, absolutely yes.
We still agree with that?
Yeah, even more than when I said it. No one has ever looked back at almost anything in history and said, man, that really was an optimized process. Now, a lot of people would have two problems with that. One is they assume, the champ is the champ is the champ, and thus they did it right. And they did it right for sure, but there's better degrees of right that could have separated Ronnie Coleman even further from the rest of the pack. And the other one is more of an egotistical, emotional thing. It's one of those like, well, how dare you criticize the person? So taking absolutely nothing away from Ronnie Coleman, yes, he could have been better if he used very commonly accepted, well-understood mechanisms like more scientific approach to training.
I strongly agree with the injury aspect of that. I think one of the probably main reasons that Ronnie got really injured is that he cranked the dials on a lot of different variables. He trained with very high loads, very high intensity, and very high volume. Those three things combined is more injurious than just turning up a couple of those variables.
Sure.
So like take Dorian Yates, for example. People say, oh, Ronnie trained so heavy, that's why he got injured. So well, Dorian Yates trained heavy too, but he had lower volume. With the, he could have had bigger quads point. What do you think of the fact that his genetics get him this much quad growth? Let's just say his supplements get him this much quad growth. The fact that he's training hard at all gets him this much. Now, putting a little more extra optimization on it might give him that much more. I would agree with that. Is that much more going to be noticeable to the human eye?
Well, we don't really know much about Ronnie. Let's assume his maximum recoverable volume under all decent conditions was, let's say, 25 hard sets of quads per week, or just making up numbers. But it turns out that he averaged about 22. And so we could surmise, based on a current understanding of volume, that if he was 3 sets shy of optimal, so he might have missed out on a few percentage points of growth. But as we've been finding out in the recent literature, if your systemic fatigue is not a limiting factor, potentially for some muscles, 20 and 30 and 40 sets per week for short sprints is even more hypertrophic than numbers less than that. And so there may be a world in which Ronnie's MRV for, let's say, his quads was actually 10 sets higher on average than he ever did. And that means maybe he could have gotten substantially bigger quads, but we just don't know. So there is an option that the reality is more what you describe it, and I think that's very likely, but you never can tell. If you integrated some more sports science in this approach and this rerunning of history, you could have gotten radically better growth. You're just like, wow, he really wasn't doing a lot of the stuff correctly that we thought. Usually the answer is just like, man, who the fuck are you to talk about Ronnie? Which is dope for bro vibes, but I wouldn't call that thinking.
Sure. Okay, awesome. All right.
Next, I want to look at some.
All right, we're gonna pause right there. Okay, so I took it back to this clip here, so we can see what they're talking about. So we've got Ronnie Coleman's genetics, then his supplements, steroids, and then his training method, and then right about here is his optimization. So in a weird way, they do kind of like acknowledge that the optimization piece is negligible, in my opinion. Um,
Yeah.
However, I think they are being a little misleading because at the beginning when they were talking about Ronnie Coleman, right? They kind of define optimization in terms of like his ability to get bigger as well as recover better and avoid injury. But then in this clip here, when they were talking about it, they didn't talk about any of that shit. So let's take that with a grain of salt, right?
Yeah.
What do
I
you think?
I mean, so I would argue that supplements kind of, optimization supplements are kind of in the same realm of things. I mean, like you're supplementing to optimize, right? But you, you're looking at like one of the greatest to ever do it.
Yeah,
I mean, so so it like how much better do you want him to be, you know? I mean, like you're kind of splitting hairs at a point, you know?
yeah, yeah. I agree with that. Also, I think it's important to define optimization, right? Like him getting bigger. I think the like you said, how much better can he really be? Any
Yeah.
more growth he would have gotten, I think, is like negligible in terms of optimizing. And honestly, when you're optimizing, in that sense, sometimes you lose other things, right? So maybe if he was more optimized,
Yeah.
maybe he's not moving as heavy as weight, and
Well,
now his
also
quads aren't going to be as big because of that.
totally. And I just don't see him making this change that's going to result in a visual difference
No,
in his like, composition, body comp or any of that stuff. And like you said, you lose a little something when
it's a
you're
trade off.
adding things. It is. And a lot of optimization is just making you feel better.
Hmm.
Possibly, like it makes you feel a little better, but you're not seeing that physically.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I think with fitness, there's always a trade off, right? Like if you're gonna push every weight, maybe you're not as fast, and if you're fast and athletic, maybe you can't push as much weight, right?
Yep.
There's always some kind of trade off like that. In reference to Ronnie Coleman specifically, I think optimization probably out of anything else, it would have helped him stay healthier for longer, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you look
It
at
would have
like
increased longevity.
right, exactly. Like let's look at Ronnie Coleman versus Jay Cutler, right? Like who had the bigger, arguably the better career in terms of like total wins, right? Um
Yeah.
versus who is really able to still lift and do the things that they were doing back then on a different level obviously, versus the situation that you see Coleman in right now, right? So
Yeah.
I think yeah, it would have helped him stay healthier. Myself, for example, right? Like as someone who is getting older, right? I remember when I used to train and when I was like 16 to 21. Oh yeah, putting yourself in a meat grinder basically, right? Like 6
Oh,
days a
dude. And
week. Oh, because you just have to, right? That's
and heavy,
obvious.
heavy, heavy.
As
Yep.
heavy as you can go, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
When you saw Ronnie doing the front squats there, me just looking at him right there, I could see his back kind of caving in and resisting that urge to buckle, right?
Yeah, that looks scary to me. That
Oh,
was
it
like that
scared the
worried
shit
me.
out of me. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was me training back when I was like younger, right?
Right.
Also watching
Right.
Ronnie Coleman, thinking like that's how you have to train, of course, right? Um,
Yep.
Now as I'm getting older, I live twice a week, and I don't got to
Yeah,
do
dude.
all that. you
No,
know,
it totally changed, like, well, I'm
and,
dealing with this back injury too.
yeah,
As you get older, if you're going under that heavy of a load and you go that hard all the time, it doesn't matter who you are, things are going to start to break down, you
exactly.
know? It's almost unavoidable.
Exactly. And I'm really
Um,
glad you actually mentioned that because like that's where the supplements piece comes in, right? Like, yeah, the
yeah, yeah,
supplements, yeah, that will help you push that maximum effort for longer and whatnot. But what it's not gonna help is your joints,
no,
your ligaments,
yeah.
things like that, right? So you know what I mean? Like there's a give and a take for it. I don't I personally disagree with their take on Ronnie Coleman, but
Yeah, I just don't know how do you critique the man, you know?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
he's one of the best to ever do it, you
yeah.
know?
And then I love how they call that bro vibes or whatever, but it's like
Right, it's Ronnie Coleman, you can't say but come on, dude.
or it's just like kind of a truth, right? Like
Yeah, it's a
anyone who
common
works
sense.
out regularly knows that there's a
Yeah,
trade off. It doesn't
yep.
just work like that. So who
Yeah,
knows?
we're on the same page for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. All right, let's go on to the next one. All right, so let's go ahead on to chapter 2, steroid talk.
99.9% of people should not take fucking steroids because you don't know what you're doing. You don't have the money for it. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of time because you're not going to stick with it.
I think the most effective way to deter people from taking steroids is actually something that you've been doing, which is highlighting the mental
Taking
impact.
tons of steroids.
Taking tons of steroids. No, no. Is highlighting the mental impacts. If you're someone who struggled with anxiety and you know how bad that feels, knowing that that could be exacerbated with steroid use is probably going to be a really strong deterrent for you. The other two things that I think are actually quite effective, telling people that it increases acne. People do not want acne. Two, it may make you bald early on in your 20s even.
Yeah, I have two more. One, it can reduce your proximate or even ultimate intelligence level, which is real bad news, especially for developing brains
didn't
of
know
young
that one.
people. And the other one is
I didn't
especially if
either.
you're under age 22, some kinds of steroids, many kinds, will limit your growth vertically. So if you want to be a tall king versus a short king, probably stay off the sauce.
Speaking of Maddie.
If you got low testosterone, I think you should be on something. If you're a guy and you're walking around with 250 test level,
Well,
you
that's
should
not
be on
healthy.
something. If you're doing it for the benefit to look great, it's the wrong reason to do it. If you're doing it to be healthy, do it.
I think I agree with him that like if you have low testosterone, clinically low testosterone, go to your doctor,
Great point.
get it checked out, and then if he recommends testosterone replacement therapy, take that. The thing is that TRT is just going to get you in the normal physiological range. You're not going to get huge off of that, right?
Not huge.
No.
It can enhance it a little
Yeah,
bit.
probably.
Is a couple different ways. One, a lot of TRT will take you to the top end natural limit, which most people aren't. Another really interesting thing about TRT is if you miss a couple nights of sleep, if you don't get good nutrition, if you're arguing with your girlfriend, your testosterone as a natural will dip because your nuts produce less of it. But if you're doing TRT, it's stable high levels all the time, which subtly over time does expose you to more hypertrophic potential. It's just comical to me that Michael Hearn would say don't do it for appearance, where he's like seemingly a vain who does it for appearance. And listen, I'm the vainest of them all, but at least I deal it straight.
Because there's a lot of people that if they took testosterone or they took a bunch of different steroids, they still would look like shit.
Yeah, sometimes you'd be shocked that if you walk into a public gym, like who's actually on gear and who's not. Sometimes
Yeah.
the guys who are natural look better than the guys on gear.
So I think an unintended consequence of videos like the ones I've made saying that look how effective steroids actually are is that people think that if they do a cycle, they're going to look like a professional bodybuilder. And it's like, no, how much steroids work for you is relative to your baseline. And there's a huge genetic range in terms of how people respond to steroids, just like there is a huge genetic range in terms of how people respond to training.
If you're expecting that it's going to transform the hell out of you, 7 or 8 times out of 10, you're going to be wildly wrong, and then you'll get really, really upset, and you'll probably just take more and more and more of them. It'll cause more harm.
All right, let's dig into some training techniques that
All right. Yeah, we'll pause right there real quick and let's talk about it. All right, so I took us back to this nice page here. I don't read fast, so when they threw this on the screen, it was interesting, but I couldn't read that shit. So let's talk about it. Just steroid. First of all, I'm just gonna say it right off the bat. I don't think any of this shit really matters for most people. Whether
No,
you're in this percentile or not, it doesn't.
Yeah, we're also they're kind of combining two different topics, right? Which is the subject of like steroid use for lifting and for getting big and all that.
Mhm.
And then, like TRT and testosterone replacement therapy as you age. They're kind of like two different things. I get what they're saying in that if you're supplementing your TRT, doing TRT as you age to like bring up your baseline a little bit and keep it stable, that's a different thing than a 20-year-old buying steroids on the street from someone
Right.
and trying to, have no idea what they're getting, what they're using, dosing information, just trying to get huge,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, exactly. There's that, and like from my perspective, 90% of people, you haven't even done anything that would require you to get to the point of steroids. That like
Right.
like for people who at the gym who like just bring it up to, because I do talk to a couple of the younger people at the gym, and yeah, they do tell me when they decide to do these kinds of things. Hey, if we had a better like a closer relationship, I'd probably have a more serious conversation with you. But
Yeah.
in passing, I'm probably not gonna talk to you about it, just because whether I talk to you about it or not, chances are you're probably gonna do you anyway. But my question to most people who actually do talk to me about like, oh yeah, would you ever jump on a split or would you know, do you think it's worth it? What have you? I say no because it's like 90% of the time, are people doing the right thing? How is your diet? Are you locked in on diet? How about your sleep? Are you sleeping 8 hours minimum?
Yeah.
How long?
Yeah.
Okay, if your diet's locked in, how long have you been locked in? Oh, you don't have any cheat meals? I'm telling you, just by doing those simple things and making those corrections and whatnot, you will see so many more gains. You know,
Yeah. I totally agree. Well, I think a lot of people are looking for a shortcut, right? So they
exactly.
don't even go to those things of like, what supplements can I take? You know, what is the,
Right.
does sleeping more help me? Does Shilajit help me? Does upping my zinc intake help, boost my test? A lot of people don't even look at that. They're looking for this quick fix, right?
Right. Right.
Um, and again, that's I don't know. You're not necessarily optimizing then. You're just trying to get bigger, looking
Exactly.
for something to get
Honestly, you're
bigger.
just doing drugs. You're
Yeah.
just doing drugs. Which drugs are cool, I guess, but like
Yeah.
not these ones.
Now, I think when we talk about TRT, I'm so for TRT at a point, right?
Yeah.
I've always had this idea that once I hit 40, which I'm 41 now, and so I'm starting to look into that, I feel like after 40, it's a totally different
Right.
conversation as to if you're going to take TRT, what activity level your lifestyle is at, what you want it to
Mm-hmm.
be like. That's a totally different thing though, and I think that's a great thing, and that should be talked about more and
Yeah.
supported more, and not necessarily taboo. But I think when you're younger, like you said, there's just so much you can do to optimize that you
Yeah.
don't have to risk destroying your body's own ability to make testosterone just to get a little bit of extra gains, you know?
Yeah. I think a lot of people, especially like the younger crowd, you know, I mean, shit, we've all been 21 before. Fuck it. I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna run
Right,
that shit. You know what I mean?
right,
I don't care.
right.
I'm not gonna make it to my 30s anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
You
You
know,
don't
or
know.
I don't care, right? Like,
Yeah.
trust me, guys, you end up caring almost
Yeah.
every time.
Well, it's gonna bite you in the butt at some point, you know?
Yeah, yeah. There's always, that whole I don't give a fuck, I'm just gonna max out and do what I gotta do type like lifestyle. That's cool up until a point, but like eventually you will get older and you will give a shit.
Yeah.
So, it ain't worth it, guys. Just lift the fucking weights.
Yeah,
Eat
chill
right.
out.
Go to sleep. Yeah, chill the fuck out.
Maybe take a look when you're 40. See what starts happening when
Right,
you're 40.
right. Under our doctor's supervision, right? Like,
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. All right, so getting back into it, we're going into training, chapter 3, training and techniques. Let's see.
That I put together from fitness influencers and pro bodybuilders. We'll start with Sam Solik, who just competed in bodybuilding for the first time and won.
I think this is his last 2 or 3 reps here. 5 plates. Smith
Jesus.
machine squat.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So I thought that was a beautiful set. I would give it like a 9.5 out of 10.
He doesn't need 5 plates to get the job done. He's needlessly exposing his tendons and connective tissues to a high degree of risk. But other than that, I think
guess.
with the 365 or 405, he can make a really good solid run. This is just great work. Am I a perfectionist asshole with a PhD? Yeah, hell yeah. That's why I say shit like that.
Yeah.
This is a barbell row. Where he actually doesn't do a whole lot of reps in his sets. Like he's usually in the about 6 to 8 rep range, and he'll do a couple length and partial,
Which is a fine range.
and that's it. What do you think?
Is this a pretty decent bent over row as far as gym culture is concerned? Yeah, for sure. Could it be better? Yeah, it could be notably better. Just keeping a tighter core, doing less wobbling, potentially getting super low at the bottom and touching the ground, waiting for a second. And then as you come up, coming up with your torso a little bit to improve the angle so you can get a bit of a better peak contraction, not be limited as much by the fact that the movement's much harder at the bottom than the top. I do like his length and partials at the end. I think that's awesome.
Me too. I agree from an optimization standpoint. I can see arguments from both sides. From the cheat side, it allows you to load a little more weight, and then as long as you control that eccentric, it's a little more tension.
Yeah, he's not
negative. He's kind of not, but
and
still,
that's
like,
already good technique.
yeah, okay, fair.
Is
Well,
he
even
not?
if you use momentum to get it up and then control it on the way down,
That's
good
very
technique.
interesting. I think if you have good technique, but you use momentum reps to do the concentric and then really slow the eccentric, I think that could even work better than standard reps. However, from a stimulus to fatigue ratio perspective, I'm not sure if that makes sense because it's going to beat the shit out of you much more.
Yeah.
Why not just do an extra set of good technique?
All right, let's look at C-bump.
Okay, let's stop right there, and we're gonna talk about that super quick. All right. Do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Why don't you? Well, I mean, stimulus to fatigue ratio is what I just keep replaying in my head. Like,
What?
I mean, what are we doing? You
Yeah,
know,
what are we doing? What are we even talking about here?
I mean, I thought he looked good. He's moving a lot of weight. My only critique, and this is just literally because it comes from my perspective on like getting injured and being older and all that, is I would be like, you don't have to do that much. But I mean, I thought he looked great for how much weight he's moving.
Yeah,
You know, and it looks like he's clearly trying to go to fatigue, which is cool. If
yeah.
that's your thing, you know. But the whole ratio thing was, you're nitpicking too much. The guy
That's
looks great.
that's too much, and I think that's why a lot of people have issues with the science fitness in lane or what have you. Is that
Yeah.
it's like, bro, shut the fuck up. Like it's
Right.
not that serious.
Yeah. Like, what are we
Oh,
doing?
like we're lifting heavy things so we can lift heavier things. Like at the end of the day,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
I thought all these reps were fine,
Right.
when he's doing the bent over rows here, he looks good. Yeah, sure, a little bit of a jerk, but like again, that is okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. You know what I mean? Especially as you're starting to hit more fatigue and whatnot, you're fine. When he was talking over here, when he was doing the or not goblet squats, um, but the squats here, right?
Hmm.
And he's like talking about, oh, he's opening his body to this and that or whatever, right? Like
Dude, he's got his feet out in front. His legs are going. I mean, he's
his
going
back
super
looks nice and
deep.
strong,
Back.
strong
Yeah.
core, right? Like
He's
I think
not
he's
rounded.
just talking shit to fill out the video, if I'm being perfectly honest. Um,
Yeah. I mean, you could always find something, especially from that scientific lens. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
What I find funny and kind of ironic about it. Okay, you want to talk about, okay, he's opening his body to like these different possible injuries or what have you. Wouldn't that be a case for him not doing steroids?
yeah.
Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
What are we actually talking about here? You know?
Over pushing.
Yeah. So I think I completely disagree with this.
Yeah. I don't like it
With their
either.
critiques here. So silliness, but oh
Silliness
well.
indeed.
Okay, so we actually are going to pull this video to a close here. We'll label this one part 1. If you guys want to see part 2, maybe give us a subscribe or even just come back to the channel. We hope you guys like this. Let us know in the comments if you disagree with any of our takes versus their takes, or even if you agree with us or agree with them, tell us why. Down in the comments.
Yeah, we want to know.
Yeah, we want to know. Maybe we're full of shit, or maybe you guys agree with us and you guys are also cool. So let us know that. But yeah, we'll actually pull this one to a close, and we will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Catch you next time.
Later.
Later.